Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Writers Chat Tuesday. I'm Brandy Bro, and I'm here with my co-host Norma Port and Melissa Stroh. I almost said your names completely swapped backwards, and that is not right. Uh, we have a great show today. We're talking about podcasting, and we have a special guest with us. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa, to Norma, and she will introduce who our guest is and all about her. Norma?
Thank you, Brandy. And I'll just stick with first names so I don't mix up either. Today, we are excited to be talking about podcasts. All of us listen to podcasts, or at least most of us, many of us, listen to podcasts on the daily. And we thought it would be a great idea to have Linda Goldfarb come speak with us today about podcasting. Is podcasting God's next best step for you? Audio is the future of every writer, and knowing our options clarifies our next step. Yet, not every opportunity to share our gifts and talents is God's open door. Linda shares insight into the world of podcasting to help you discern what element of podcasting is God's next best step for you. And just to let you know a little bit about Linda, she is an international speaker and award-winning author and podcaster. As excuse me, as a board-certified Christian life coach, Linda helps women move from being stuck or splattered to discovering God's next best step in their personal and professional lives. Linda is Linda is recognized for having a voice that makes you feel welcome, safe, and seen. And when she shares her energy, experiences, and expertise during interviews and from the stage, screen, or in her writing, you lean in, not wanting to miss a single word. Linda and her hubby, Sam, are the proud parents of 4 adult children, numerous grandchildren, and 1 great grandson. They live on the edge of Texas Hill Country with their 2 rescue pups, Mimi and DJ. Linda credits a combination of faith, humor, and personality awareness to growing their relationship into a thriving adventure lasting more than 38 years. Linda says, "My life is far from perfect, and that's where Yeshua met me, loved me, and saved me. For him, I'm eternally grateful." Linda, we are so glad you're here and look forward to all that you have to share with us today. Take it away.
Oh, thank you so much, Norma. Thank you, everyone, for the invite to be here. It is a joy to be able to come in and speak into the lives of writers and speakers and kingdom entrepreneurs as we are, to be able to give God glory in all that we do, in all that we say. And speaking about podcasting is a heartbeat area for me. So I am overjoyed to be here with you. So do you want me to go ahead and just begin? Do I just dive in?
Just
Perfect.
jump
Well,
right in, hit
oh,
first.
thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to offer this to those that are listening to the live. If you want to get my notes, I have them, and I'm more than happy to send them to you, to give them to you. And if you email me at linda@lindagoldfarb.com and say podcasting notes in the subject line, I'm more than happy to send them to you. All right. So let me go here and hit onto the share. And there you go. Well, you should be able to see my podcasting, right? Take your talk to the next step. All right.
Yes,
Very,
ma'am.
very
We see it.
all right. And I'm going to rearrange. I work off of several monitors. So I want to make sure that I'm looking here, but I know what's going on over here to the right-hand side. So when we look at taking or our talk or our writing to the next level, understanding, as you mentioned, Norma, that audio is in the future, period. We need to embrace that just because it's what's happening around us. So when we look at what is podcasting, I know that the majority of us on this call right now, we've listened to some podcasts. We may be familiar with all the aspects of it. I just want to run over or go through a few basics. Then I'm going to really highlight it into the benefits to writers and what we can glean from podcasting. So podcasting is the radio of today. I was in radio for 10 years and began in San Antonio, Texas through the Salem station KSLR. And I expanded into regional coverage and then international coverage. And I will tell you, being on radio was a hoot and I loved it. And you would go live and you had like less than 10 seconds of what I would consider rebuke time. Like if someone came on the air with me and you were like going, oh, I didn't want to hear that, then the guy, my tech guy, would have to stop it and correct it. Today we have podcasting. Podcasting is a bit more, how should I say this? It's more forgiving and it's recorded. It's not necessarily live. There are a few podcasters who do broadcast live via YouTube and different sites such as that. But I'll be talking in general terms today as far as podcasting being the audio aspect of podcasting. And these are digital audio files that are available through the internet. There's audio subscription as well, where you can download the episodes to your smart devices. So it can be to your computer, it can be to your phone, it can be to your iPad or your tablet. And there are some podcasts that are subscription for pay. Most are not. The ones that are for pay, they have high numbers and they can monetize that way and they can get it. Majority are not. So that's what we'll be looking at here today. Whoop, go the wrong way. Thank you very much. So what are the benefits for writers? And I know that we'll have some time, I believe, towards the end for some Q&A. So please, my friends, write down whatever questions you have. I'm available to you for this. Well, the benefits for writers are, first, it is a great resource to learn our craft. There are numerous podcasts that help writers. I have the Your Best Writing Life podcast, and it has been airing for several years, y'all. And I have industry experts that come in every single week, and we drop episodes that will help you experience your best writing life. So I highly encourage, if you're not subscribed to Your Best Writing Life, that you check it out and learn more about the craft yourself. Then we also look at spiritual growth. And as brothers and sisters in Christ, we can attempt new options, new avenues in our lives. Spiritual growth, though, for me, has got to be one of the top priorities in my life. I want to continually grow. And you can search on a podcasting platform for spiritual growth. Be very careful. I would highly recommend you put Christianity in there, because you'll find a whole bunch of stuff which may not be what you want. But looking at Christianity and maybe getting fed during the day while you're doing something else, where you can be listening, not necessarily writing anything down, but you're listening to what's happening in someone else's life. Maybe there's words of encouragement. You can also find podcasts that offer reading. Some of them read books. Some of them will read scripture to you. So be listening for that as well. Also, for the writer, it gives us an opportunity to hear multiple podcasting models. There are interview models, there's solo podcasts, As I mentioned, some that read Bible studies, there are some that read children's books out loud. What area is Father leading you in to possibly expand into the arena of podcasting? So there's so many different models that you can choose from. And then listening to podcasts actually fits in between your writing time slots. And here's something that's key. If we are writers, we must write. And many times we can get caught up in something new or a different option. And I don't know that we want to negate writing time for learning time. I highly recommend that you slate your writing time, keep to your writing time, and then allow podcasting to fit in between. This is one of the key areas that has helped me is if I have a structure, I go with the structure, and then I have training time that I'll put on my calendar. And it can be where I'm looking at YouTube, I'm looking at something where I can sit down in front of the computer, or with podcasts, I'm getting some training, and it's in between my writing time. So I encourage that greatly. So here's the next thing is looking at why host a podcast. Okay. And I do have, I'll mention this, I do have the new book that's out, which is Creating Dynamic Podcasts and Audiobooks. And the first portion of it talks about how to be the best guest on a podcast. And that can also be on radio, on television, on a written blog as well. So it gives you criteria how you can expand who you're speaking to in your audience and expand it to multiple audiences. So that's key. When you are geared to feeding into the audiences of other podcasters, you're going to realize that having your own podcast probably has a lot of value. So why host a podcast? It's a great way for people to discover you, for them to get to know who you are. It's a great way to repurpose your content. As a writer, even if you're not writing a how-to, you're writing fiction, you're writing poetry, whatever it is that you're writing, you can take concepts of that and feed into the lives of others. It can be directly into your audience as a fiction writer. You can talk about the struggles and the difficulties that your characters go through, because those characters, though they may not be based on a real person, they are real issues and they are relatable. That's why people love to hear your or to read your content. Now, what you can do is take that content, maybe flip it a little bit, and allow them to hear your heart on a more personal level. And you can do that by repurposing your content. It's a great way to build a personal connection with your audience. And today, people want to connect. They are seeking relationships. I say this all the time. No matter what we do as a job, we are all in the relationship business. And if we are writers, we're in the relationship business. And connecting with others is key to building that relationship. So many of my friends, Edie Melson, numerous friends who really focus on the area of social media, what they say is social media is not where you sell a book. Social media is where you engage and develop relationships. And it's the same thing with podcasts. It's how you increase and build personal connection with your audience. It's a great way to stay in front of your audience long-term. When you have a podcast, and if you are purchasing what I consider a pro level in a podcasting platform, it's going to stay there. And you can create evergreen product or evergreen talks or whatever that's dealing with your particular genre, your particular subject, and people can go through and they can binge it, and it's available for long term. It's not just a short little, I'm in your face today. It's come join me on this journey as we are moving toward whatever the goal is that you have for your audience. It's a great way for people to hear about your brand, to hear your message, and to start recognizing your voice beyond the page. For speakers, your voice beyond the stage. It allows people to connect in a way that they've not done before. I started staying real about faith and family, I guess it was a couple years back, and started it as a solo podcast. Invited my good friend Heather Greer to come on board and to kind of be the one who I'd be talking to, because it was like my Ed McMahon. And so I'd be talking to her instead of like talking into the air, and I'd be able to get her reactions with me. And that was great. And then I said, you know what? Let's do where we are co-hosting together, because I really loved Heather's voice, her personality. We're different, but we blend so well. So we developed where we were co-hosting together and talked about subjects. Then we moved into doing a Saturday drop for an episode drop where we would interview people. And during the week now, my Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I drop a Let's Journey Together a Moment with Father. And it's a short episode. There's so much that we can do, y'all, where people begin to know us and they start to learn that we care. And when they know that we care, then they're going to care about what it is that we have to say, right? And then it's a great way to fit your expertise, your story into anyone's daily lives and activities. And here's why. Because podcasts can be consumed while multitasking. This is huge, right? I see your heads nodding there. This is huge. When I'm busy out in the yard, when I'm doing dishes, when I'm working on something else, I can be listening and gleaning and going, oh, I need to know more about that. And then I can make a mental note. And if I need to go back and take notes, I know where I can go to do it. It's a potential increase for book sales for you, and it will increase your readers. When readers connect with you on a different level, which vocally, that's a different level from reading words on a page, then they're going to want to read more. They're going to want more. They're going to want to experience you. And you can give them a taste of it in podcasting. And then they're going to want to read your books. And this is what's so beautiful. When they start reading your books after you're a podcaster, they hear your voice while they're reading. They hear you. And now it's that personal connection there, isn't it? And it's so beautiful, because it's like one of my really good friends, Diane Mills, and I know you've had Diane on. Diane and I talk all the time. Well, when I read her book, I can hear Diane's voice in there, and I love it, and her energy. So it's very important in that area as well. And listening to a podcast is free. Majority of them are free. The average commute, here's a key factor. People will listen because they don't have to pay to listen. And the average commute, here's some great stats for y'all. For Americans today, it's like almost 25 and a half minutes is the average commute. The average time on a treadmill is about 30 minutes. The average time to walk your dog is about 20 to 30 minutes. These are perfect segments for podcast. Perfect timing for podcast. And let's look at, is this the best investment of your time? So we're going to look at return on investment, right? And our investment is time. So let's think about the competition. In 2022, the last stats that I pulled, there were 200,000 active podcasts. And active means they're ongoing, right? It's beyond episode number 3 or episode number 5, which most podcasts end with their 3rd to 5th episode because it's work and because they're not ready, which is what I help you do as I do podcast training or coaching. And with the new book, y'all, I just wanted to give it all away. And that's what my publisher said, you gave everything away. I said, well, that's okay. They can take it and go step by step. So, and plus I have the notes here. You can get those for free. But here's the thing. We think of 200,000 as a lot, but let me give you some different numbers. Do you know for active blogs, there are 19 million, y'all. 19 million active blogs. And that's approximately 425 million live blogs are posted every week. What? Look at YouTube. 1 billion YouTube videos. Approximately, blows me away, 72 hours of new video are posted on YouTube every minute. Y'all, every minute. So when we look at 200,000 active podcasts, yeah, there's still a lot of room for us to bring our podcast into the world. And if we will gear it so that our unique client, our unique audience finds it, they will subscribe and they will show up every single week. There's a lot of room still available with podcasting. And when we look at the smartphones that are available today, smartphones are number one media source today. And more than 1 billion people own one. Huge. Enough said with that, right? The greater influence that we have, there are 98 million people who listen for 30 to 60 minutes. And the average person who reads a blog, they'll only read for about 15 minutes or less. But they will listen for 30 to 60 minutes. Why? Because they're active doing something else. Reading a blog, reading a book, reading means that I have to look at it, unless, of course, it's an audiobook, which I'm a huge proponent of audiobooks. So, when should you host a podcast? When you have a message with more than one point. Okay, big wink there, right? When you can write out 25 unique episode titles before you even consider stopping. When you can write out 15-minute content segments. So you don't have to write a 30-minute, 45-minute, 60-minute. When you can have, and even today, if you have anywhere between 6 minutes and 15 minutes of content, that's killer. It's wonderful because people will listen to it. The longer an episode is, your content has to be so rich that the person will not stop midstream. But we can all write something that could be 6 minutes to 15 minutes and think of the unique episodes that we could create in that. Why should you host a podcast, or when? When you're ready to connect with more readers. If you're ready to gather more readers, a podcast can be in your future. Do you have a website to invite them to? You need to have a website. If you don't have a website, you're not ready for a podcast yet. Do you have ancillary products? If you're a writer and you have a book, that's great. If you can create ancillary secondary products that someone can download, I'm a huge proponent of, for every episode, have something that they can download. Even if it's a one sheet, you create a PDF where they can download it, and this works really well, and you're kind of trained in this, as you become a guest on other podcasts, what in that specific episode can you provide to the listener that's going to say, oh, I want that? Then what they do is you have it created. It's a digital download of some form. They go to your website and it's a lead magnet. That way you can capture their email address. You know that they were listening and you can stay in contact with them afterwards. So when should you host a podcast? When your writing message warrants it. Is your content conversational? Is it entertaining? Is it challenging? Can you help take someone to the next level? Can you bring joy to someone's life? Can you encourage them with a how-to? Are you someone who others go, I just love just sitting across the table from you and sipping on whatever, my water or my coffee or my tea, right? If you have that, then hosting a podcast could be your next step. And then also looking at marketing funds. Do you have funding available? It does cost to host a well-planned podcast. It doesn't have to cost a lot, but start thinking of kind of a budget. I know I use Buzzsprout and it's about $18 a month. And then I use Zencaster when I'm recording. It helps with a little bit of my post production. I do the majority of that on my audio software that I use to, and I use Adobe for that because I do a lot with audio and also with video. But you do get what you pay for. And if you're going in this, do you want a co-host? Do you want partners? Are you seeking supporters? People that have funding are happy to come alongside the content creators. Because, Lord, I have money that I'd love to put to service for your kingdom, but I'm not a content creator. And when you go to someone and say, you know, the Lord has placed on my heart to do a podcast, I just have to find the funding to do it. He will bring you together with those that have that, because our God is a partnership God and he is an amazing collaborator. And if he has placed it in your heart, then he desires you to be successful as well. And that's huge. Okay. Are we doing good? Are we doing good? Okay, very good. All right. Now what we're going to look at, oh, and you would have seen, is podcasting your next best step? And I do have a link, and it's linkedpersonalityquiz.com, linkedpersonalityquiz.com. If you go there, you'll discover your dominant personality, and that is in conjunction with the linked quick guide to personality series that I've co-authored with my good friend Linda Gilden. And it's just 26 questions, doesn't cost you anything. You can take the quiz and then you get your dominant personality there. So is this your next best step? What I say is we need to consider our passion bubbles. What is our core passion? What has Father put on our heart? Are we splattered or scattered? And then we look at our dominant personality. So let's go there quickly and look at what is your core passion. Is this God's calling on your life? When you're writing, you're directed to kind of niche it down, find that audience, think of that avatar, think of that individual that you're writing to, writing for. Who do you want to connect with on a heart level? And when we do that, then we start speaking their language. Well, when we look at our life and the passion that God has given us, he gives us a natural tendency in how we feed into the lives of others. That's how he's designed us to be. And when we look at our passion, if it's writing, if it's speaking, if it's a particular subject, if it's a particular genre, then I look at that passion and I go, how is that, or how would podcasting benefit that? Does podcasting come alongside that? And I have to look at this to see, right? So, or is it something shiny like, oh, squirrel? Oh, I think I'll start podcasting. Oh, okay. And I'm not prepared and I'm not ready. No, that's not good. Or is it just one more thing to do? I mean, if your mind just goes, oh my gosh, really podcasting? Probably not the time. Not the time. Because who needs one more thing to do, y'all? There's a lot of things I can do, but every can do or every want to is not what I should do. And I have to really pray about it. I really have to ask Father, is this really that next best step? And if it's not, then I'm okay with it. And I think someone needs to hear this. Just because everyone else jumps on a bandwagon, it's not necessarily where Father wants you to be. Because if we're not in his will, according to his way, and in his timing, we're either trying to chase something down or hurrying up to catch up. And then we're stressed and then we're frustrated and then we're going through all of this and we have this angst. Then our family is like going, why are you so cranky all the time? Or why are you doing this? Or why? It impacts who we are spiritually and it impacts our relationships. And we're in the relationship business. So there's not a thing, THING, that we need to dive into that is not according to God's will, his way, and his timing. If I'm receiving angst from it, it's not for me right now. And that's perfectly fine. I can still be a guest on a podcast. I can still learn more about them and be the best that I can be there. So it all works. It all works. All right. So here we go. How do I know if this is where God wants me? Well, we have a core passion. And you can see on that slide, that core passion is right there in the middle. And there's a lot of opportunities that are offered to us. And a lot of the other opportunities, they may have a different color, but they might be connected to that core passion. But then you're going to see some colors that are bright and shiny, or they're splattered all over the place. And my husband brought this to my attention one day when I walked in from, just got off of a call. I walked into the room and I said, well, such and such organization is asking if I can do da 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 da. And I told him I could. And he looks at me and he says, well, there's not much that you can't do. But is it in alignment with your passion? Or are you trying to splatter your life? And at first I went, what do you mean am I splattering my life? And I had to sit back and I had to go, what was I thinking? There's a lot of things when someone asks, can you do this? Our answer, which could be correct, is, yeah, I can do that. But is it in alignment with where Father has me in this season of my life? That's my core passion. So how do we find that? I'm glad you asked. This is what we're going to look at. We're going to choose to scatter our passion and not splatter everything around it. So the first thing is to identify, what is the calling that God has given me? My calling right now in my life is to use my voice to empower the kingdom of God. And he uses my voice in a mighty way. I used to run from it, y'all. I hated my voice growing up. I hated how I sounded. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is just, I sound like a boy and I'm this and this and this. And then I started having people who would come up and go, oh, I love your voice. I love how you sound. Oh, you're so soothing. And I'm thinking they're talking to someone else. I have no idea. Oh, poor people. They need their hearing checked. But when I truly understood that Father was using my voice. And it can be for you, it can be a message, it can be a life situation, it can so many areas, right? But it's that passion that you get up and you start working in that zone, and it's easy. What I say is, it's like breathing. I take a breath and it's what I experience on a daily basis, that it doesn't hurt my head when I'm trying to accomplish something. It just works. So whatever Father's calling is, you identify that. And then you're going to look and see, okay, what are the options that I have? Because just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. So here's what we have to consider. Who is your audience? Whatever your passion is, if you're looking at podcasting, who is your audience, and what is the benefit for them with your podcast? You've got to identify that. Your audience isn't everyone. It can't be. So the more niche you can make it, now you know who you're sitting across the table from at drinking a cup of coffee. That's your audience person, is that one right there, because they want to hear you. And here's something to consider. I had forever used headphones with stuff. And then I had my, the earpieces that we had. And then I graduated to earbuds. And so I have those. So think about this. When you are podcasting and you're the host and you're speaking, you're in their ear. That is more intimate than their spouse. You are closer to them than anybody. And your words have power. So what we have to say, we have to choose carefully the words we use. We have to choose carefully. Is this God's next best step for me? I'm speaking into someone, and our voice crosses through the little brain barrier and speaks directly into that individual. So I need to know, who is that audience? Who is that person that Father wants me to sit down with and have a conversation? So we identify the audience. Then we need to look at our time, because we can have a great idea, but if we don't have time to implement it, it doesn't matter. So here's how our time needs to be, I guess, addressed for this. God must be first and foremost in our time, y'all. If we're asking him to show favor on something, to expand our territory, we must spend time with him. So God is first. Family's there, but before family, you got to sleep. I know it's a crazy thought. You've got to get your sleep. Don't expend sleep time to add one more thing to your calendar. Our bodies cannot function that way. I used to think years ago, when Farmtown first started on Facebook, because I was one of the first Facebookers, and they had Farmtown, and you'd go and you'd start building this farm, and it was great. And I got to the place where mine was huge and expanded. In the middle of it, I had got Jesus, and these little avatars would come in at 2:00 in the morning, y'all. Hey man, that's really cool. Can I harvest your tree? Sure you can. Jesus loves you. And I'm thinking it was a ministry. All the while my husband saying to me, I'd really like it if you went to bed the same time as me. And I'm over here going, well, I'm doing Jesus work. Well, guess what? We're in the relationship business. God is not going to call me away from my husband, my kids, my relationships to do this, because that's not his business. That's not what he's saying. And I have to take care of myself physically to be who he needs me to be. So I know that God, sleep, eat, move, family. Look at the time that you currently have. And out of your 100% of your current occupied time, how much time do you have every week to put toward this? You're the only one who would know. So you have to consider your time. Then you consider your budget, as I said before. Your budget can be in dollars. It can be bartering. It can be maybe that you have to hire a VA to do some of the stuff that you're not geared to do. But you have to look at, what is your budget for this? Then we look at family. And I mentioned that in the time, but family is so important. God will not call us away from family to do faith-based anything, period. Family. For me, I'm married. That means my spouse. We have a full life and an empty nest, but I still have children and grandchildren and a great grandbaby. And so I need to look at my kiddos and see, how am I involved in their life? How am I staying in contact with them? Because relationship is huge. Some people are in the season of caregiving. So we look at family. Don't think of any family consideration as a negative. It just happens to be what it is. If we're in a season of this, that's where we're at. How can Father use it? Am I to use this time to create content for a podcast? Am I to use this time because Father is showing me something that, oh, if I had bypassed that, I wouldn't have understood this. So let's look at family and know that family is important. And here's going to be a key. If we go to our family and we say, I think I'm going to start podcasting, and we have children that say, we don't have time with you now. If you start podcasting, when are we going to have time with you? Or if you have a husband or a wife who says, okay, one more thing. The Holy Spirit is going to have us be sensitive, y'all. We don't need to be doing one more thing. It may be that we have to remove something else if podcasting is the next place. We have to look. We have to cut stuff out. My hubby has always said here at the house, he goes, if you're going to bring one thing in, two things have to leave. And he did tell me that he is not one of the things I can remove. So, I'm like, okay, well, he's staying. So I have to have something else leave, right? But it's looking at that. So we're looking at these circles to be able to know how they are incorporated and what space they occupy already. And then we'll know, how can I go from there? What am I to do? And how are we doing on time? Are we good? Okay. So I shared with you the link, and it is let me see, linkedpersonalityquiz.com. If you go there, you'll be able to find out real quick with 26 questions which dominant personality you are. And so I'm going to just go through these quickly for you. And I bring these into podcasting because as a podcaster, as a host, I have strengths and I have weaknesses. And with my strengths taken to extreme, like I love to talk, but taken to extreme, I can talk way too much. I have to find balance. I have to discover how God designed me and areas that I might need someone to come in and help in the area of organizational skill or finding a balance. Or maybe I'm real good at this, but not so good at this. Who do I need to bring in as a team? And every team flourishes if they have a balance of these personalities in there, because we all bring great stuff and it's so wonderful. And one of the things that I've discovered, I did a lot of study on brain science and the study behind personality or behavioral styles. And we all have our quirks. We all have our healthy aspects. We all have unhealthy aspects. But do you know that the one area of personality that is not different with any of the others is the area of intellect? There's not one personality that's smarter than the other one. God has allowed us to all be intellectually sound, no matter our personality. And to me, that's very powerful. As a speaker, I'm very gregarious. I'm outgoing. I'm out there, right? And I would have people who would say, oh, I'd love to speak like you, but I'm not that way, so I can't be a good speaker. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like the world would need one more me. No, it's how God designed you to be. And my co-author with Linked, Linda, she's polar opposites from me. She's actually my husband's personality, and I'm her husband's personality. And when I've been in front of Linda as she's keynoting, speaking, she's so witty, she's amazing. Her personality isn't anything like mine, but she's so effective in what she does. So we need to understand God's design is perfect for us. We are not perfect, but his design for us is. And we can accomplish everything that he sets for us to do just the way that we are. And it's just that we have to take time to discover, well, what is my strength and where do I need maybe someone to come alongside or to learn a skill XYZ. So we have the get it done mobilizer, and we have the life of the party socializer, the keep the peace stabilizer, and everything in order organizer. And when we look at these personalities, I have a recognize your personality assessment. If you take the quiz, it's going to come back. It's going to show you what your dominant areas are. And then you have access to this as free stuff. So you can go and click on it and get it for free. Okay. So the mobilizer, you might be a mobilizer if you love to do things the fast way. So looking at your dominant personality, you process life. How do you process it? Fast. The mobilizer does things quickly, moves from one task to the next. And it's very important. They are task oriented, so they can get things done. They don't think too much about the feelings of others, so they want to get things done. As a podcaster who is a task oriented individual, and you want to check off the box or you do a lot of bullet points, you're going to need to bring story in a little bit more. You're going to need to slow down a little bit more and allow people the opportunity to engage with you. You're going to have to show patience instead of making a point, pointing it out, and helping people get the point. You're going to have to learn how to slow down just a little bit and engage at a deeper level as a podcaster. Our tendency is to be very surface as a mobilizer. And you love control. That just goes without saying. All right. As a socializer, you might be a socializer if you love to do things a fun way. So you love to have fun with everything that you do, and you tend to speak a lot. And as I mentioned before, you can speak a lot. As a podcaster, we can go on and on and on, but we need to learn how to be concise with what we're sharing. So if you are a socializer and you love to have fun and you want everyone to have a good time, you've got to have an organized outline. You need to know I'm going here, and timing on it is important. Move from this point to this point to this point. That way you're going to keep forward motion. You'll be able to share your wonderful stories that you have to share, but you're going to keep the person on task and not chasing after squirrels that you never even get back to the tree on. You don't want to be known for that. You need to have someone maybe even come alongside you who is more of the organizer bent. And they'll say, keep this in mind. Remember this, remember this. That's some key things. And you do love to have fun, but you're distracted when the fun stops, when podcasting becomes very hard. So you need to make sure you're surrounded by those who don't see it as difficult. They see it as easy. And that's what we want to go with. As a stabilizer, you love doing things the easy way. And a phrase that was used years and years ago with Christian leaders, authors, speakers, and I sat under the tutelage and also was on the faculty for class with Florence Littauer, was with the stabilizers, or they were called phlegmatic then, is why stand if you can sit? Why sit if you can lay down? And so you want things easy. easy isn't always productive. So we have to look at the productivity. If it's easy, is that the latest? Just because you're comfortable with it, is it the best way to engage? So we have to look at some of those factors that's in there as well. And you tend to think before you speak, which is good. And so you're conscientious of others, and that's very good. But what you can do is you can get distracted when life is a little bit chaotic. And that means if something goes wrong, it's like, oh no, what do I do with this? Having someone else that can keep you on target, being prepared, having maybe a more of a lighthearted, easygoing structure will work for you, because you're not going to feel the pressure of this. It's got to be right now, right now, right now. And because normally deadlines are not the favorite of a stabilizer, though you'll get where you're going, you're just going to move and process life a little bit slower. And you do like people, just not as many as a socializer likes. So that's always good. And then you look at, the organizer, and the organizer is the one who loves everything done the right way. Perfectionism can be a booger bear. I'll tell you that right now. You will say, ready, aim, aim, aim. You get stuck on aim, you never fire. And so you don't release a podcast episode because, it has to be perfect. No, it doesn't. It just has to be out there. And to be able to have someone else where you put it together and go, this is where we're going to go. And you give yourself permission to not be perfect, because we're not. There's no way we can be perfect. Jesus is perfect. And what he guides us in and through is perfect. As a organizer, we must say, you know what? This is my best right now. And I'm always learning more, and it makes it beautiful. So that's kind of where you are. Consider your calling, consider your audience, consider your time, your budget, your family, and podcasting may be your next best step. So that's what I have.
That was awesome. Thank you, Linda. A lot of food for thought there.
Yeah, a lot to process. I love it. I love that you mentioned Florence Littauer. I actually read several of her books back in the day and did her personality. I'm a sanguine caloric is what I am. And all the personality tests all through the years still revealed pretty much the same thing, which by yours would be a socializer, organizer.
Or socializer, mobilizer.
There you go, mobilizer. That's it.
Yes. That's what I am as well, Norma. And what I find is that I operate a lot in my mobilizer with a fringe of socializer. And if I can dress socializer, then I keep people's attention a lot. So
y'all feel free to pop on if you have any questions for Linda. Feel free. This is the time to ask. We still have a few minutes. So any questions? We've had a lot of fun conversation on the side here, Linda, while you were talking about different things and voices. We had a lot of interaction when you were talking about you didn't like your voice when you were younger, and several of us could relate to that.
Right.
So, a lot of fun conversation, but I didn't see any questions. Brandy or Melissa, did you see any?
Yeah, I didn't see any questions.
I didn't see any either.
Well, how many?
This has been so straight.
Yeah, let's ask the question. Anyone out here who's considering starting a podcast?
I am.
Okay, so Joe, with that, what's holding you back right now from starting it, or what are you looking?
I have the name. I have kind of, what I'm looking at doing with it. The person that I was going to be using as a co-host, because I thought that was important to have. They've kind of dropped back because of some health issues and some things. So Right now, I'm just, praying, asking God, first of all, for a co-host to join, and have that conversation to see what they're looking to do, what God has put on my heart. I have done, like I said before we started, I have done multiple interviews of Christian authors for many years. So I really stopped that last year and wanted to move into podcasting. I agree with so much of what you have said, and I love your book so much. It has just been really eye-opening and challenging as well. And I appreciate that because I needed to be challenged on ways of thinking about doing this. So that is kind of where I am right now.
And if you did a podcast, would you want to continue interviewing people, or do you want to have it more of a solo where you are sharing? And I know you're looking at a co-host, but what do you want to share with your listeners? What is that message that you have, or that thread that would be?
I think that, for me, it was always in the midst of the journey, that where God has taken me from to where I am today and all the things that have happened, but also to be able to bring in people to speak as well on certain topics. Do I need to have a co-host to necessarily do that? I don't know that I do. I don't think that I do. And, in listening to you today and just kind of, I've kind of gleaned through the book. I haven't really gone through everything very carefully, but that would be it. And then to know what products I need in order to be able to do it well. I always feel if I'm going to do something, I wanted to do it with a spirit of excellence. And I know that, in reading your book, it's, that, people will say, oh, I want to do a podcast and do maybe 4 or 5. And then that's as much as they've done. And then it kind of just falters. And I don't want to do that. And I love the idea of the 25 topics and speakers or whatever it is you're going to do. So those are some of the things that, I'm looking at right now for myself. And plus I have a nonprofit on the side as well.
Nice.
And so I really would like people to learn, understand that more. And, I speak and do things like that as well. So
so you have a lot that you can offer to your listeners, even beyond what you do in the every week or bi-weekly
yes,
or bi-monthly episodes. That's
yeah.
good. It's all good. I do see a conversation in the chat that Sally was asking about technical, how to record the software, edit software and such like that. On the handout that I have, it gives you some of that information there. Here's the thing is software and microphones and all of this, the paradigm shift on what's new, what's latest, all of that is it's ongoing all the time. And you can search for best microphone for podcasting. Here's the thing. You can have a podcast with a microphone that's not like mine. Mine's on a boom. It can be a standing mic. You can have your headphones here like this. I like the headphones and the microphone because then it removes extraneous sound and reverberation coming back and forth. But you can also do it with earbuds. I mean, there's so many ways that you can, so many devices you can use today. There's people that do a podcast straight from their phone. They're just doing a podcast. They're out walking around and they're recording their podcast. And with the podcast episodes, majority of them, as I mentioned, they're not live. So you're recording yourself, using the audio, uploading the audio onto a platform, and you can search for podcasting platforms. There's Podbean, there's Buzzsprout. I think Apple now has their own podcasting platform. Let me see, you have a microphone and earbuds. You want to do it with video. Well, Audacity is not the best for video, but guess what? YouTube now has a podcasting platform. Go check out YouTube if you want to include audio or video with it. And what they're going to ask, though, is if you currently have a podcast or a podcasting platform. But there are tutorials out there that are amazing. that you can utilize. Let me see. JJ just wrote, I just wrote down 50 things that I could talk about on a podcast. And and it's like, what'd you say? Terrifying. So it can be terrifying. But here's what you want to do is making sure and I do discuss that in the book as well. The promise of the title of your podcast and the promise of the title of your episodes is huge. This is what's going to draw people in. And then you must answer the promise. Whatever you said you're going to cover, it's got to be covered in the first few minutes. I mean, real close to the front end. Don't stretch it all the way out to the end, or else you won't be a promise keeper. And they'll drop off. And when people say, how long should a podcast be? However long it takes for you to convey what it is your message is. If that's 6 minutes, it's 6 minutes. If it's half an hour, it's half an hour. What we don't want to do is just be out there being a talking head and providing words that really become rambling. Does that track with everybody? What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I think that's great. I've listened to a few, like everybody else, I listen to podcasts, and there's some after 5 minutes or so, and they haven't hit on what they promised. I'm out. I go find something else. I get a little easily distracted if it's not, even if they're kind of funny and it's entertaining, but if they're not giving me what they said, then I move on. So what you said is spot on, Linda.
And I like doing cold opens, and a cold open is, have you ever considered the impact that your words have on your dog? Well, stick around. Our guest today is going to share with you 3 ways that you can engage with your puppy that you've never done before. And then we go into the whatever. That's a really good topic. I need to find someone to do that.
Love it, love it, love it.
But then you have, and you choose your music bed. You need to make sure that you have the rights to the music bed. You need to make sure the volume is clear. So many things. I see Sophia's in here. She's been on my Your Best Writing Live. So good to have. Hey, girl, so good to see you. And to be able to give value, because I will pay you with my time if you give me value for it. Right? I'll stick with you if I know that you are providing value to me with the time that I'm paying you, because time is a commodity today. And it's important that we honor those who are choosing to listen. So, any other questions?
Linda, thank you so much for coming and being our guest. I am sharing again the link to her book on Amazon. Be sure to, if today has piqued an interest, or if you've already been kind of contemplating about podcasting, be sure to get Linda's book, Creating Dynamic Podcasts and Audiobooks. And Linda, we sure hope you can stick around for a few minutes for the after party. And Melissa and Brandy, I'll kick it back to you guys.
Yeah, I just second that, Linda. This has been great. I've loved listening to you. Just so many good things to share, lots of nuggets to just take away with us. And yeah, I've got a lot to mull over with this one, even from the perspective of one who doesn't really feel led to go into podcasting, but definitely considers being the podcast guest. So many good things. Just jumping real quick over for next week, we're going to have Jill Lancourt come back and talk to us. She's been on Writer's Chat a few times before, talking about Instagram and sharing how you can create your platform and connect with people there. She's going to share about her experiences with it and just the transition she's been through, I guess, and where she started out with Instagram and where she is too. I know it's going to probably connect too with her faith and changing into that and being more God focused in it too. But we're looking forward to hearing from her. And Yeah, join us next week. Again, thank you so much, Linda. Is there anything else that I need to cover, Brandy, that I may have forgotten?
We'll just say that for those that are here, please stick around for the after party. And for the rest of you, if you're catching the replay, you're welcome to join us on the live shows. Come join our Facebook page. Facebook members group is actually a group, not a page, where you will find all of the notifications of when we have the next chats, and you'll be able to join directly every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. And we hope to see some of you join us in the future. In the meantime, thanks for watching our show. Thanks for all of you who have come today. This has been a great topic, Linda. Thank you for coming. And we will see everybody next week.
Yeah.